I mean, 36 hours now since the explosions at the dam, so it's pretty clear that this is a very big act. It's a catastrophe for Ukraine, which is as bad as, in its own way, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster of 1986. And as the hours go on, we're getting more clear about what those implications may be. This was the dam before the explosions, and with Maxar satellite imagery, it's in black and white because it's being produced very, very quickly, but you can see the dam there breached in 3 places. We hoped yesterday that maybe the damage wasn't as bad as it originally looked, but it is pretty bad, and that is clearly breached. So the reservoir, the Kakhovka reservoir, will now just flow into the Dnieper River, along with at least 150, maybe 300 or 400 tons of fuel oil, which will go with it, which will contaminate the Black Sea and cause major problems. Further on, if we look downstream, again, Maxar satellite imagery shows the difference. Before and after, keep your eye on the residential area, not the water. You see what's happened to the residential area downriver. Kherson itself is a port, and if you look at the port of Kherson, same sort of thing. You can get the idea of the residential area, but you zip a Maxar satellite image across it, and there is nothing but devastation. So, you know, there's the port of Kherson. You can see light craft and barges unloading. Put the Maxar image across it, Maxar satellite imagery. That's the sort of damage that it's done. And even if you take a small village like Krinky, which is where there's a tributary of the Dnieper River to the north. I mean, look what it's done to Krinky again. Look at the residential area. So it's all pretty bad and getting worse as the implications become clearer as the hours go on.
So what's the political reaction being?
Well, just now, President Putin has said to President Erdogan of Turkey, he said, this is a catastrophe. He said, this is a dreadful act. Oh, indeed it is, Mr. Putin. The question is, who did it? And at the United Nations, people are being a bit cagey formally. They're saying that we need evidence, and when we've got evidence, of course, this is a war crime, which it undoubtedly is. And privately, nobody's got any doubt about who's done this. And a lot of other politicians, even Chancellor Scholz of Germany, yesterday, he's a very cautious man, but he came out and he said, this is Russia, they do this sort of thing, and it's absolutely dreadful. So I think the Russians can say what they like. Nobody believes that this is not a militarily coherent act. The Russians are getting something out of this militarily, and they've done it without regard to the civilian consequences. That's a war crime.
Let's talk about the fighting on the ground, away from here. What's going on at the moment?
Yes, I mean, the war continues. Overnight, there were a lot of strikes. At least 30-odd missiles and drones were brought down by the Ukrainians, but some strikes, I think, got through. Another night of airstrikes. Down in the southwest, in Kherson, this is what we're talking about, the Kakhovka Dam draining into the Black Sea. This area is now not a good place for the Ukrainians to try to attack. They might not have tried in any case, but that now will take that area out of contention. So it narrows the front that the Ukrainians can work on. But elsewhere in the front, there's an upsurge of fighting right along, particularly in the Donbass. So at Svatove, at Crimea, the Russians have been pushing there quite recently and maybe are pulling back. At Bakhmut, the Ukrainians are pushing north and south. There's a big battle going on now at Parakovivka, which is just north of Bakhmut. And that's a really big battle that's been developing over the last few hours. And Avdiivka and Vuhledar, the Ukrainians are pushing quite hard. And if we look at the south of the country in general, across the south, you can see what the Ukrainians might be trying to develop. They're exploring at the moment. But the two big strategic possibilities is, one is, supposing they drove south to Melitopol, right down to the coast. If they could do that, they would actually be able to threaten Crimea. And that would be a huge advantage, political advantage, if they could do that. But that's a big ask. A less difficult task would be to push south to Mariupol. That would put them on the Sea of Azov, get Mariupol back as a port, and that would still split the Russians into 2 sections. Those are strategically big objectives, but one suspects that that's what the Ukrainians have got in mind, something like that. How they'll do it, how they'll go about it, and how long it will take, we don't know. But this is what we're all looking for. Whatever we see in the Donbass is preliminary to something bigger, we suspect, further south.
In the weeks ahead, yeah. Michael, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.